From offshore drilling to coyotes, there are a lot of issues that Isle of Palms Mayor Jimmy Carroll is tackling. I sit down one-on-one with the mayor for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on my free Quintin's Close-Ups iHeartRadio podcast. Mayor Jimmy Carroll.
Quintin, how are you? Good seeing you again.
Likewise.
Please come out here more often.
Oh, I definitely will. Absolutely. Especially this summer. I'll be out here running, so you'll see.
Good. We're always glad to have everybody come out and view this island and enjoy it.
What is your view of this island right now as mayor?
To me, having grown up here, it's the best place in the world to live. I mean, I love this island. I'm passionate about this island. And I think this island's going in the right direction. We're doing a lot of good things.
Talk to me about those good things right now.
Good things. We were the first beachfront community to pass the single-use plastic bag ban. That was back in 2015. And since then, many other communities, Folly Beach, Sullivan's Island, now Mount Pleasant, are all going the same way. And the city of Charleston's going the same way. And Charleston County has had their second reading, which is they're really a kind of final reading, but they still have a third reading, which is more of a formal type of reading.
Looking back,
we're proud of that.
Proud of that, yeah. What is the biggest difference when you think of plastic bag bans from 2015 to now in your mind?
Well, the problem we have right now is we've got a lot of people in the upstate who have plastic manufacturers up there. Mm-hmm. And 2-3 weeks ago, I went to Columbia for a Senate subcommittee hearing, and we were all given 3 minutes to speak about why we feel home rule should stay intact. They're trying to take away home rule from all municipalities across the state. What they're trying to do is say we cannot pass bans like that. So I went up to Columbia 3 weeks ago. Everybody was given 3 minutes to speak, and I prepared my remarks. I made copies for all the senators. And the first person who got up to speak was the plastic lobbyist. They took 35 minutes. And a show and tell of all the little products and stuff. The next group to get up to speak was a couple of elected officials from Beaufort County. They were against plastic bags. They took 20 minutes. And then the meeting was over. And so we went up there for nothing. So I'm going back to Columbia tomorrow for the same subcommittee, and I'm going to have a whole new line of remarks to say. What we did before is I talked about plastics and how it's grown. 1.1 to 2.4 million pounds of plastic go into the ocean every day. If you catch a fish around here, dolphins, you don't catch dolphins, but inside them, turtles, they all have microplastics inside them. I've seen pictures of birds, mother birds, feeding their young tiny pieces of plastic, not knowing better. I mean, we got to think globally, but act locally. We got to get the government to realize the residents in our planet are more important than the plastic industry.
What else do you want to tell government now about plastic bags?
Well, I mean, let us choose how we want to run our community. Plastics, back in the 1967, the movie The Graduate, you're too young for that. Dustin Hoffman just was graduating from college, and one of his parents' friends said, "Son, think plastics. Plastics are the future." Well, the same plastics were back there in 1967 are still out here today, slowly degrading, but it will take anywhere from 300-400 years to up to 1,000 years, depending on the type of plastic. And when it degrades, all it's doing is turn into microplastics. And our fish and wildlife are all being impacted. Our state reptiles, the sea turtles, loggerhead, at the aquarium downtown. I mean, there are some that have been ingested in their intestines. You get some that are wrapped around their heads. I mean, their fins. We've got to stop using this kind of stuff. We've got to think about the future. What are we going to leave future generations?
How many animals have been impacted by plastics and the waste of it? since 2015 in your mind?
And sea life,
Yes, ma'am.
every one of them. Shrimp have microplastics in them. All that marsh in between Mount Pleasant and Isle Palms is the breeding ground for fish and shrimp and oysters, and it's all being ingested. And so it's ingesting in them, and then we go out and catch the shrimp and the fish and the crabs, and we ingest it. So it's time to really start thinking about the big picture. Let's not just think about making a profit on the cheap plastic bags. Let's use recyclable bags, whether it be paper. They've got new products out there made out of cornstarch that break down very easily.
Right.
Let's do this. China used to take all of our plastics, and now they have stopped taking them. So now the plastics go to Indonesia. In reality, less than 10% of plastics are recycled. Think about that. Less than 10%. That's huge.
I know.
Huge in that it's such a minute amount of the total amount of plastic.
Okay.
But it's huge when you talk about over 90% of the plastic is still floating around out there or in the yards or along the roads.
And I know something that is very huge right now is about you and really all the communities on the coast. That is, it's about protecting the coast with offshore, but basically protect them from offshore drilling. And I know I was reading a headline just yesterday where I believe the Trump administration lawyers basically said, "Hey, let's continue with this while this lawsuit is going on." Where are you with this?
Well, if you saw my office, I have "Do Not Drill" signs all over it.
Yeah.
I've got them in front of my office. I've got them in front of my house. Tourism is a $22.6 billion industry for South Carolina. 22.6, of which 2/3 is due to coastal South Carolina. Horry County, which is Myrtle Beach, they're number 1. Charleston County is number 2. Offshore drilling, besides the environmental potential of oil spills, is another portion of that called the onshore aspect. I went to Texas recently, and I came back along the Texas coast, Louisiana coast, Mississippi, Alabama, and I saw the onshore aspects of offshore drilling. It's ugly. Condé Nast named Charleston the number 1 city to visit 6 years straight in a row. I mean, Charleston's known for its beauty, its quaintness. Even though it's growing so fast, it's still a beautiful city. Why do we want to hurt what we have already with offshore drilling? What they're proposing to do right now is called seismic testing, blasting. Every 10 seconds, bam, bam, bam. Those blasts. Congressman Cunningham in Washington took a bullhorn and blew it. And he said to the fellow congressman, "How loud do you think that is? Is it 10 times? Kept a straight face. 100 times? 1,000 times?" It was 16,000 times louder. 16,000. When you put these blasts out in the ocean, there are so many mammals out there. Mammals, whales is a mammal. Dolphins are a mammal. And they use sonar as a way to seek food, to mate, to travel up and down the coast. We are totally messing them up. We don't need it. And the cost of the oil is so low right now. We are an exporter of oil. Why do we need to go offshore and threaten the coast of South Carolina, but all of the coast? Florida, which is exempt. I don't know why it's exempt when everybody else has got opened up. Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, all of Virginia. Why do we want to risk it? It's not worth it. We don't want to see offshore drilling. And we don't want to see seismic testing. I'm going to Washington on April the 2nd to testify before Congress on the effects of what they're proposing to do on our coast. And everything I just told you about tourism, about our ecology, our environment, We don't want anything to negatively impact our coast.
Let me turn to the coast because I know that there's a proposal to allow surf lessons on the beaches for the Alva Palms. And I know after years of requests from surf companies, the Alva Palms may soon allow businesses to offer surf lessons on the city beaches. How many requests have you been getting so far?
Well, we've had 2 requests. Years ago, we had 1, and they tried to do it at the rec center. It didn't work out. Last year, one group came before us and said, listen, we want to do it in the Wild Dunes. Okay. We don't want to commercialize our beach on Alva Palms. Now, from the high water line down to the water line is public beach. A lot of houses own down to the high water line. Right. So, pushing commercialization of that beach is not what we want to do. Wild Dunes was willing to allow them to work down here a year ago. I think they're having second thoughts. I'm not sure yet. We haven't gone that far, but it's not going to be on the Alva Palms. It would be down to Wild Dunes if they allow it at all.
Oh, wow. Well, let me turn you over to something else. I know that obviously the Alva Palms is looking for ways to generate new revenue. And this is coming from Channel 2. And it reads this. The Alva Palms is in a bit of a rut. On one hand, they're facing millions in capital expenses. On the other, they don't have enough money to pay for those expenses. Now the island city is looking for ways to save and collect money. Like many coastal communities, they're facing flooding issues, parking problems, property tax rate discussions. The list just goes on. And I know that obviously you said to Channel 2 that the island is not bringing enough money to pay for all of this. Where should the money come from?
Well, let's do it this way. Drainage is a huge problem, not just on the Alva Palms, not just east of Cooper, but everywhere, up and down South Carolina. I was named to Henry McMaster's Floodwater Task Force. We need to be resilient. We need to become more resilient. We have a fire station down at Station 2 on 41st Avenue. On these big tides that come in there, that water comes all the way up, halfway up the road, seawater. So when we know those tides are coming in, we have to take our fire trucks out of that station and move them to Station 1 so they don't have to drive through salt water. Salt water and cars don't mix. We are in the process right now. In fact, this map right behind us is showing the hotspots. We are working on 3 different outfalls, 41st, 36th, and 31st. That's going to cost us about $3.9 million just on the outfalls. But we have flooding all along here on Palm Boulevard, all in the interior of Alva Palms. And we need to get that water here, out here. When the tides come in, it comes over that ditch, and it comes all the way up to Frank Satilli Lane up here. That's a large amount of water. Charleston is doing what they call the Dutch talks right now.
Oh, yes.
And, I went to Amsterdam a few years ago, and they've conquered sea level rise. They got houses built on the ground that don't have flood insurance because they don't need it. We need, as the city of Charleston is doing the Dutch dialogue, do many of the same things. When on 41st Street, we will probably have to build a levee on one side. The other side's already higher, so the water doesn't go over. Right. But we're going to have to put it on the one side all the way up so we can keep the street open and passable for these fire trucks in Station number 2. Right. Just the outfalls are $3.9 million. We don't know what the total cost is going to be when we come further down Alva Palms. Here, 25th Avenue, houses down here, right. That road is totally underwater. Back here on 19th Avenue, totally underwater. We really need to think resilience. We need to think about what we're building. You see, Charleston is booming. More and more houses, more and more lot coverage, bigger houses. I'm hoping that our planning commission will be bringing forward a smaller footprint for lot coverage. Houses right now are allowed to cover up to 40%. Mm-hmm. In that 40% means the house, the sidewalks, the driveways, the swimming pool surrounds. Just make all that pervious so water can go through it. And also, we're talking about shrinking the house size down to like a 3,500 square foot. This is all just discussion right now, nothing in fact. But the reason I say all that is every bit of this costs money. We have a public safety building down here near the front beach. It's both the police department and fire station number 1. That building was built 10 years ago. It was built because the previous building had mold and mildew problems, a safety hazard. So we had to move our fire personnel out of it, put them in trailers, take the buildings down, and rebuild. We rebuilt it 10 years ago, and today we have a roof that leaks. We have siding that's buckling. We're doing forensic testing right now on the building. And the slab down on the ground where the fire trucks come, it slopes inward and has cracks in it. You can see rebar in some spots. It was a sloppy job, and it's something that I've inherited as mayor coming on board. That's going to cost anywhere from $3 to $5 million. So 3.9, 3 to 5 over here. Going after more drainage issues. I mean, it could be huge. One thing we'd like to see in the future, and it's going to be many years in the future, is we have about 1,400 houses that are still on septic tanks. That could be anywhere from $30 to $40 million. We can't afford that right now. So the top priority for Isle of Palms is drainage, starting to work on it, starting to put money aside for it, and also the public safety building. If I can get those 2 things started during my last of my term as mayor, I'll be happy. We also, parking.
Oh, yes.
Parking is a big thing out here in Isle of Palms. Last year, I'm real pleased that with this new council that we have a council that is for the residents. So we're keeping Palm Boulevard free parking. Unlike a lot of Folly Beach is charging for parking.
Right.
Sullivan's Island still has free parking, but they put it on one side of the road. We're going to allow Palm Boulevard from 22nd Avenue to 57th Avenue to have parallel parking, 1 car wide. You can't double, triple park. This will be the first summer of that. We still far exceed the Beachfront Management Act when it comes to how many parking places per everyone. They get 6 spaces per 1/8 of a mile. By doing that, you qualify for state money if we ever have to renourish a beach.
I want to go back to what you said about the lot coverage and levees.
Okay.
How much would that cost in
Well, again, this is a work in progress as we speak.
Okay.
And it's a just these 3 outfalls right here. It's about 3.9 million. That's just the Band-Aid. We still got to work on the levees, ditches all through here. We've got Forest Trail. We've got a group that wants to take 3 houses and make them into 5 houses. We've got Forest Trail that when I was a kid used to be a swamp. I used to go back there as a kid looking for snapping turtles in the swamp.
Wow.
Now it's all filled in. It's treed. It's beautiful, but it floods. So again, we've got to be proactive and think to the future.
Now, how many levees do you all have to clean out?
Well, it's not levees. It's
The
drainage ditches.
Excuse me.
Probably all of them.
Okay.
Now, I will say that 2 weeks ago, SCDOT came out here and they gave us 3 crews for a week to work on some of the hot spots.
Okay.
We have a company called Edie's who does our maintenance of ditches. They used to do it once a year.
Okay.
Last year, we started doing it 3 times a year. Just to clean, these ditches, silt, mud will get down to the bottom of them. A palm frond will be washed down those ditches and get stuck. And then more stuff builds up around it. Then all of a sudden, those ditches don't drain. So we got to get the water off the island.
And I know earlier you talked about public safety, and obviously with the public safety department, particularly the police department, you had a lot of people who had left, mainly because of money issues. Where are we with this?
Well, we got a couple things. When I first got elected mayor, we had Chief Tommy Buchanan. He had 38 years as being the police chief, or mostly of his career as police chief. He retired. He bought himself an RV, and he and his wife are going to see the world, and and I'm very happy and jealous of him. But I too plan to do the same thing. So we have to fill his position. The city administrator resigned. So we have to fill her position. So we're working with short staff. Desiree Fergasso, who is their assistant to the city administrator, she is our interim city administrator and has done a phenomenal job. This past year, we had 2 hurricane threats. In this room, we met 3 times a day, every day, watching that slow-moving storm. Luckily, we were spared, but you still have to prepare. And it's not a matter of if a hurricane is going to strike, but when a hurricane is going to strike. And to go back to your question about the police department, our starting salary is about $39,000.
Okay.
Most of the officers can't afford to live in Isle Palms. Most of them can't afford to live in Mount Pleasant, so they live in the outer areas of Charleston. So they have to drive to and from work. I had to drive to North Charleston twice yesterday. Got stuck in traffic both times. It's getting worse and worse every year as more and more people come. I think they said it's like 50 people a day are moving here. We are doing our best to maintain our police department. We need to hire a chief. That's probably our top priority right now. We did hire a headhunting firm to do it. They missed every deadline, and they finally sent us their top 11 candidates. And we all knew other people who had applied who weren't on there, and we're not comfortable with this. Okay. So we are taking the last task, and we're going to do it ourselves in-house with our HR department and our personnel committee.
And how much money would save? How much money would that save the city?
Well, the total cost for the headhunting firm was $39,000. $13,000 up front, $13,000 for the middle, right. $13,000 on the completion. We didn't feel we got what we paid for in the middle, but we still were willing to give them the $13,000 and call it quits. So that's where we're at. But we said with that $13,000, we want the list of names of everybody who applied for their police chief, city administrator, and assistant to the public works department. So we've got all that information, and we're working on it. The police department now, last council meeting, we voted in the pay raise, 7%, which is basically $5,000 to try to be more competitive. Our police officers are also allowed to take their cars home as a way to get to and from work. Isle Palms is the safest city for a city its size in America. So, out here, it's kind of a laid-back attitude. Sometimes we get young officers who want to be running and gunning. They want activity. They want action. We don't get that kind of action out here. It's kind of, you get front beach and get people who maybe drink a little too much. We got traffic problems. Our community is about 5,000 people year round. In the summertime, it can swell up to 35,000 people with the vacationers and the day visitors. The vacationers at least leave money here. They spend money, they buy groceries, they go out and eat. The day visitors, the people who live around the Tri-County area, they come out and our island gets filled. They're not spending anything. They leave the trash. We have to rescue them. We have to protect them. We have to organize the traffic on and off the island. But still, we still believe that everybody has the right to go to the beach.
Sure. You talk about the traffic, and obviously, how many officers do you need now?
Well, our full force is 27 people.
Okay.
Now, when we hire a new police chief, we want them to be progressive thinking. What do we really need? Okay. Do we have some positions that we don't need? Or are there positions that officers can take care of themselves? We don't know. This is going to be part of the new police chief's job.
And right now, how's traffic without 27 police officers on the island?
Well, we have livability officers, we have detectives. Okay. They are now part of the force. Okay. So Isle Palms is not lacking in police protection. Okay. We've got 2 officers with a 3rd officer at the city police station, so we're covered.
Okay. Okay.
So everybody can feel safe on that.
Safe on that. And I forgot to ask you this earlier, but obviously, as you know, you talked earlier about parking, and the parking fees are increasing. Obviously, started on March 1st and were one due October 31st. The new increase was passed in January, following a smaller increase last year, according to Channel 4. These updated fees will cost beachgoers about $1 more if they're parking on the street, and $2 more if they're parking in one of the city-owned municipal lots.
Well, it's kind of a loaded question because we actually lowered the parking fees last year, and we lost a lot of revenue.
How much?
Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so we doubled the parking fees. It's $2 an hour on the meters up front. You go to City of Charleston, it's $2 an hour. For the in season in the city parking lots, it'll be $10 a day on the weekdays and $12 a day on the weekends. That'll generate about $480,000.
80,000. And obviously, we talked earlier about the animals. Where are we with coyotes and on the Isle Palms right now?
That's a good question. Where are the coyotes? They're everywhere on Isle Palms, and we need to be proactive in educating our residents on how to not live with them, but try to not make it so friendly for them. Don't leave pet food out. Bring your pets in at nighttime. Make sure your trash cans are secured. Keep the underbrush cut back. The coyotes kind of stay in the maritime forest. All this big green area here, that's called a maritime forest. They live there. They live along the golf course in these wooded areas. And down here along the golf course, all these little hammocks and stuff. All these little islands are called marsh hammocks. And so they're all out in there hiding, raising their pups. And, we're doing our best. We've got soft leg trappings. And then we do have to destroy them when we capture them. We've caught, I think, 2 so far this year. And then 1 was hit by a car, so that's 3.
What is the peak season for these coyotes?
Well, they're here year round. They're not increasing or decreasing. They're probably increasing. They're breeding right now. That's why we're out there trapping right now. We have a time frame that we trap in. And so we're doing our best to eliminate. Every time we've got a coyote coalition that was formed down in the Wild Dunes. We've got cameras out. When somebody calls us up and tells us that, hey, we got coyotes here, we'll take a camera down there and set it up and kind of watch. And if it's a hot spot, we're going to go put a leg trap down there. So those are constantly moving. If you capture one right there, you got to move it. But it's something that new to this area. It's new. First Sullivan's Island had it. And then it came over here. Now it's going elsewhere. Mount Pleasant has them all over there too.
Oh, yes. Wow. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? As for the city?
Yes, sir.
Well, again, I'm proud of this city. I'm proud of the council we have right now. When I was on council before, it was kind of like we're butting heads and nothing was getting done. Now when I go to city council meetings, we're getting things done. We've got votes to get things done. We don't always agree, but we do it cordially when we disagree. So again, I'm proud of what we have, and I'd like to see it continue on. We are putting money aside for beach renourishment. We increase the rental tax 1%, and that goes to our beach renourishment fund. It generates about $1 million a year. Of that $1 million a year, several hundred thousand goes to beach monitoring. We monitor this whole beach year round. Historically, that far in the Wild Dunes is where we've got the 2 beach renourishment projects. But this section of the beach down here has been impacted with severe beach erosion. That's something new to me. I've been my whole life. We've never had a problem down here. Now all of a sudden we got a problem down here.
When did you first hear about it?
Oh, I walk the beach a lot. So I see it day in, day out.
Okay.
When we had last year a king tide, a full moon tide, and a northeaster all at the same time. That did more beach erosion than the 2 threatened storms that passed us. So, we have to be thinking for the future. We have to think about being resilient. We have to think about leaving our island a better place for future generations. And we've got a council who's willing to do that.
That's great to hear.
And again, talking about the city revenue, Isle Palms is what you see is what you get. It's not growing. It's pretty much filled out. You're seeing older houses being torn down and bigger houses going up. But we have a very limited revenue source. So the parking fees was one way of going about it. We did restrict parking to Palm Boulevard. We made the rest of Isle Palms residential parking only. We wanted to protect our residents. When I ran for mayor, the marina was a big issue, the redevelopment of the marina. They were going to put a $5.5 million referendum out there about rebuilding the marina. That failed, and that's how I got elected. It was my stance against that.
Right.
And my stance against it was we had a council that voted for a lease extension down there of 30 years. It goes to 2045. It should have been a triple net lease where the tenant's responsible for all maintenance, taxes, and insurance. We didn't do that. And so why would we put $5.5 million down here, yet we're not going to get anything else in return? We got 4 properties down there, the marina, the variety store, Morgan's Creek, and Tidal Wave Runners. 2 of them, the marina and the variety store, they're fixed until 2045. Morgan Creek's lease comes up not this summer, but the end of next summer. Tidal Wave lease comes up not this summer, but the end of next summer. Those 2 are about a month apart. So we're trying to envision what do we want Isle Palms to look like in the future.
Have you been able to, talk about the budget publicly for the city of Isle Palms?
I mean, our budget is extremely tight.
Okay.
And when we find out this public safety building over here, what's it going to really cost us? We were in a lawsuit and we had X amount of dollars given to us. We have to make up that difference.
Okay.
The drainage, while we're just doing these 3 drainage outfalls, that costs money. If we do the whole island, it's going to cost over $10 million to $20 million. So those are things that we've got to talk about.
Well, Mayor Jimmy Carroll, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Well, thank you for coming out, Quintin. I mean, it's always a pleasure seeing you.
Yes, sir.
And don't make it once a year. Do it twice a year.
Absolutely.
Come out in the summertime on a weekend.
Oh, I will.
And I'll give you a tour of the island of what we are impacted with.
Okay.
Because I think you should see it firsthand.
Sure, I definitely will.
And then you'll understand why we have to limit the number of people who come on the island. You can't have them parking all over the island because of public safety. That's huge. I rode around with a police officer one time, Captain Usry, and there was a heat stroke victim at the county park. Cars were backed up the bridge, down Palm Boulevard, both directions, all the way from. We had a hard time getting there. The EMS had a hard time getting out here. So, I mean, those are the issues that we're faced with. This plastic stuff we got going on. We got a group, a council member, Susan Smith, and Katrina Limbach created this program every Monday afternoon. They go out with volunteers and they pick up the beach at Front Beach. And the amount of plastics and trash and stuff they pick up is horrendous. We'd really like people, when they come to the beach, just leave your footprints.
Well, there you go.
Well, good. Thank you again.
I'll be back.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I promise.
Oh, this summer I'll be here.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.